Welcome into the All City Media at the Winter Meetings here, 2022, San Diego. It is going down, and what's went down on Sunday was the announcement of a couple Hall of Famers. At least we thought there might be a couple. There is only one, the Veterans Committee, or more properly, the Contemporary Baseball Era Committee.
They just like to make that as long as they possibly can.
It makes them sound a lot more highfalutin. They're very important people, these committee folks. But they have selected Fred Crime Dog McGriff, kind of as we all had anticipated.
Yeah.
And Curt Schilling, a guy that seemed like he was building a little bit of steam and was a player. Did not. You got 7 votes out of the 16. You need to get 12. Don Mattingly actually ended up getting more in 8. Jesse, disappointed in the result, surprised by the result?
I would say, so disappointed. It's sort of, I think in some ways, anytime you speak in favor of Curt Schilling, you have to be careful because Curt Schilling has done some not great things and said some not great things.
Tell us,
we don't have to go into much detail on that, but
maybe later, maybe off the show. We'll talk about it.
But so with that preface, I do think it's a disappointing outcome for Diamondbacks fans in that Curt Schilling, I think, deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. 216 career wins. If you compare his career numbers with Don Drysdale, they're very, very similar. And what really sets Curt Schilling apart more than anything is the fact that he's one of the better postseason pitchers of all time. Low 2 ERA. He never lost an elimination game.
He started Game 7, didn't he?
He did. Yeah, he started Game 7 of the World Series. Randy Johnson came in that game late, of course. But yeah, he pitched an outstanding game in that situation as well. So anytime you take a regular season career that I think, measures up and is what it needs to be, but also what he did in the postseason, I think it should be enough to get him in there.
Now, you guys want, obviously, as NL West guys, Diamondbacks, Rockies, one guy that didn't get in who was big time in the NL West, Barry Bonds.
Ooh.
Barry Bonds didn't make it in.
Are we having this conversation too?
He got less than 4 votes. And so I know, just again, as NL West folk, what does that mean? How you're a little more familiar with Barry Bonds, but
he's complicated too.
Yeah.
Everyone's familiar with Barry Bonds,
just like Curt Schilling. But the thing that Bonds doesn't have, that Schilling does, is that postseason play. Probably more controversy than anything else, and it actually has to do with the game.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons why I know, for me, why I thought Curt Schilling probably had a better shot of making it, and we talked about this on our show on DNVR Rockies with Susie Hunter, is the fact that the BBWAA is made of probably mostly liberal-leaning writers, and they might not agree with what Curt Schilling has said or done politically. Whereas this 16-person committee, they made a couple bucks in their life. They might be more right-leaning and maybe don't care necessarily about his political beliefs. And so you go, let's actually grade him on his resume, and the resume is there.
Whereas he did that. Whereas Bonds, a little more sketchy of how he got the numbers, but
he clearly has the resume.
But he has the resume. But Curt Schilling, I would say, also has the resume. Like you mentioned, similar to Don Drysdale, but just the playoff success was so good. So many different years for different teams too, and it's hard to keep that off. And from a strictly baseball perspective, it's tough to keep that off out of the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I think that's a super important distinction. The fact that the gripes against Barry Bonds are actually baseball related and would have affected his stats and whatnot. The gripes against Curt Schilling are more, an off the field kind of a thing. And not to say that there isn't some validity to, some of the criticism there, but yeah, there's a huge difference between the criticisms against, Barry Bonds and even Roger Clemens, as opposed to the criticism against Curt Schilling. So I don't think this should be that difficult. I don't know. Patrick, you probably have, you're probably the baseball historian out of the three of us, more than me and Ryan, maybe. I feel like the numbers here stack up pretty well for him.
According to what you just said, I just heard of this guy the other day. So you've sold me on him from what I've just learned about him. Let's not also forget, put aside his Diamondbacks, his history, obviously winning it 2001, and the fact that it was him and Randy Johnson. It wasn't just Randy Johnson alone. They were co-sportsman of the year for Sports Illustrated.
Mm-hmm.
And Randy has even said, he was asked a couple years ago by Peter Gammons point blank about Schilling's, he deserves to be here. He pushed me. I pushed him. We worked together. It was great. There was so much camaraderie. And then he immediately turns around and goes and he wins the first World Series since 1918 with the Boston Red Sox in 2004, the bloody sock.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, Red Sox down 3-0 against the Yankees. No team had ever done it. Still no team has done it in MLB history to come back like that. And Curt Schilling was a huge part of that. And, you know, I think that's, you know, forgotten, I think, at times, again, what he's contributed to the game and what he's done and how he was able to post, you know, 200 plus wins, low 200 wins. You go, that's not that much.
Yeah.
Look up win totals now. 200 is almost the new 300. Like, his resume is there, solid. He was always one of the best in the game. I mean, the dude was pitching the postseason in 1993 with the Phillies when they made their run to the World Series before they got taken down by the Toronto Blue Jays. That's how long his career has lasted, and that's how long he's been successful.
Yeah. 20 years. 20 years he pitched in the big league. That's
that in itself,
not
in my book, you should be in the Hall of Fame just because you pitched for 20 years, right?
No, like no one does that. No one does, and like even the amount of innings that he pitched, like that 0-1 season, he led the I don't know if it's the National League or the Major League, 256 and 2/3 innings.
Yeah,
like he was the leader. No, not even close.
I love watching Curt Schilling pitch too. Just like
Bulldog.
Yeah, just like he was like a power pitcher, but he also was kind of a command specialist. Like he didn't really walk anyone. And there's not that many guys out there who can like do both as well as Curt Schilling did. I also think I read somewhere that his strikeout to walk ratio was like one of the best in Major League history, or like the best that's been posted in like a very long time or something like that. So just like watching the guy pitch, I mean, he certainly looked like a Hall of Famer in that respect. And you're right, 216 wins is not, you know, that's not like an elite sort of number. But when you factor in the postseason, when you factor in the longevity, like Ryan was talking about, I think the pieces really should fit together here. And it's still possible. It's still possible that at some point he still could get in. This is not no for forever. But this has been a long road for Curt Schilling, and it might not end anytime soon. So,
and as you point out, I mean, Schilling's journey ended last year, right? That was his 10th and final year.
Yeah.
Didn't get 75%. Apparently didn't want 75%.
Yeah.
When he be taken off the ballots, again, whole other thing. But again, these contemporary baseball era committees, they'll come up. I know it'll happen again at the 2024 winter meetings. So he could potentially be on that ballot and possibly go in. So, you know, if you've been on the ballot and if you run it all the way to the end, whether it's more recently with 10 years or 15 years, like a guy like Dale Murphy, who got a couple votes here with this committee, you know, that says something about your longevity and even pitching 20 seasons where you go, yeah, but there are some guys who pitched 20 seasons that were crap. And you go,
that is true.
They were good. Their numbers might not be great. That says something to be around that long, to pitch for so many of those teams and to be successful with so many of those teams. You're right. This won't be, you know, Schilling's last time having this possible opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a 127 ERA plus for his career. So that's not, you know, I mean, if you're like 140 or 150, then I think it's obvious you should be in the Hall of Fame. 127, I agree, is maybe a little bit more on the edge, but again, it's just, I mean, he just had a ridiculous postseason career, and like to pitch during the era that he did, and to have a low 2 ERA, you know, in the when it really mattered, like when his team really was counting on him, I think that speaks more to a career than anything else, really. I mean, that's really where stars are made, is in the postseason.
He pitched during the steroid era. Let's not forget, too.
Yeah, doesn't help.
Late 90s, early 2000s,
and
those are the numbers that he was able to post. That obviously has a lot of value. I do love strikeout to walk ratio as like
it's one of my favorite stats.
Right?
It really is.
You're not walking guys, and you're throwing a lot of strikes, and they're swinging and missing. Like that's a really important separator for all those things. So Schilling will get another shot. Not gonna happen this year. People probably disappointed. He already has a bobblehead. Or not a bobblehead, but he has a big head. What do they call the guys who run in between like the fifth?
Oh, it's the Legends Race. The D-backs Legends race. Yeah.
Yes.
Although Curt Schilling is not one of the legends.
He's not.
No,
well,
he's
right.
actually not.
Grace, Johnson, Luis Gonzalez,
and Matt Williams is the fourth one. Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe the voters go, wait a minute, he's not in the Legends
He's not a
race?
D-backs legend.
Hold on,
according to the Legends race.
That was the one that just kept him out.
Exactly. If he gets his own legend, people will feel a little bit better about losing Vicente Padilla in the trade with the Phillies. I mean, they had to part with a decent player. Vicente Padilla, folks. That's a good way to end this one. We're going to be here all week long. Rumors, innuendos, trades, free agent signings, talking about the D-backs here in San Diego, 2022 MLB winter meetings. Make sure you're tuned in.